Okay, so to recap again here real quick, one of the key points is that all topic domains do cover IPv4 and IPv6, so we're going to be doing both of those as we go through them. Okay, out of these, main focus of the class is going to be the core routing and then the service provider services. So IGP, BGP, LDP, then MPLS layer 3 VPNs, MPLS layer 2 VPNs, then the miscellaneous features, traffic engineering, multicast QoS, and then internet access. Okay, so some of the key topics that were removed were all of the legacy serial links. Okay, so since we're using the viral virtual machines, those have only Ethernet interfaces in the exam, the iOS XE, the CSR1000V, and then also the iOS XRV support only Ethernet interfaces. So this means that for layer 2 VPNs, we no longer have to do any interworking between encapsulation types. Okay, and what this means is that if you had a circuit where you had a T1 serial link on one side, and on the other you had a fast Ethernet interface with layer 2 VPNs, you can strip off the layer 2 header, take the payload out like the IP packet, and then do a conversion between those two protocol stacks. So one customer side could be attached with T1, other side could be attached with Ethernet, but they can still bridge traffic to each other. Okay, so they're on the same layer 2 network. But in our case, since the serial links are gone, from layer 2 point of view, we only need to worry about Ethernet. Okay, so same to same, no interworking. Now, in terms of topics that were added in the v4 blueprint, some of the key ones would be the multi-point or multicast label distribution protocol. And we need to talk about the different MLDP profiles that go along with this. Unified MPLS or seamless MPLS was added to the blueprint, and we'll see that this is not a specific feature per se, but it's a combination of routing logic that we put together in order to get to this solution. Okay, similar to another line item on the blueprint, which is remotely triggered black hole filtering. And that's not a feature that you configure like feature black hole or something like that. It's just a combination of routing logic that gets us to the result of this design, and that design result, they call it a remotely triggered black hole. Okay, same here is going to be seamless MPLS. So there's not like router unified MPLS. It's just a specific design of BGP plus IGP that we use in order to get that working. Okay, the other one, which is a real key change here, is Ethernet VPNs, which refers to the Ethernet virtual circuit syntax for a layer 2 VPN. Okay, then provider backbone bridging, EVPN, I want to say that this is only on the written exam. Okay, same as the Mac and Mac bridging, 802.1 AH. Okay, then likewise, Lisp says describe only as well, so that's going to be for the written exam. And then some other minor ones here. So we have multi-point GRE. Okay, there's a couple different ways to do this. You could do multi-point GRE with a dynamic multi-point VPN, but you could also do MGRE directly with MPLS. So we'll talk about the different options for that. Typically, that would be where you have some sort of non-MPLS network that is connecting two different islands of MPLS, and you want to be able to communicate over the non-MPLS network. So then you could put that traffic inside of a GRE tunnel, put your MPLS inside of a GRE tunnel. Then the devices in the middle would just route regular IP packets based on the GRE header and the IP header as opposed to the MPLS header. Okay, and like I mentioned, also we have the change in the format. So the format went from the single 8-hour exam to the 3 separate modules. So the modules, we're going to come back to these in more detail when we go through strategy, because there is a different strategy you need to apply to the troubleshooting section in the exam versus the configuration. Now, diagnostics is kind of an outlier. We'll talk about that a little bit more towards the end of the class. But with diagnostics, you don't get access to the command line. So it's more about your organizational skills and reading comprehension type skills as opposed to the actual technical configurations that we're doing in the other sections. Okay, I have some recommended links here. Hopefully most of you have heard of these already. The best one by far that I have on this list, if you have not seen this book before, is MPLS-enabled applications. Okay, so if you have questions on MPLS from just kind of a behind-the-scenes point of view, I would definitely recommend to pick this book up. Okay, it's also on Safari if you already have a Safari Online account. MGRE was removed in 4.1. Yeah, I didn't think that I saw it on the list there. Let me go back to this here. It may have said just describe. So let's go to exam topics in PDF. GRE. So they did take it out as a 4.1 then, which it wasn't really a big topic scope anyways. And what's kind of strange about this, though, is that even though they removed the explicit line item from the blueprint, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can't test on that in the exam. Because as you see above, they give themselves that out, that if someone wrote in and say, whoops, I forgot that we removed MGRE, well, it says that, however, other related topics may also appear on a specific delivery. So even though it's not listed there, I would recommend at least to go through the document once or twice and just see why would you potentially do that, and then how does it work in regular iOS XE versus iOS XR. Because as you know, the syntax is, sometimes can be completely independent between the two. Okay, and Tom, as you mentioned here, the 2547.0 DMVPN, which is basically layer 3 VPN over DMVPN, I believe that was also one of the line items before, but it's not listed on here anymore. Okay, also I have some links to some Cisco Live presentations. So if you just search for the session numbers, so for these, if you go to CiscoLive365.com, okay, we're just CiscoLive.com. Okay, so under on-demand library, let's search for the specific keyword. So in this case, it's a breakout SPG for the service, I think it's service provider group. And if we say BRK SPG, you could see there's tons of service provider specific ones. Carrier Ethernet and mobile backhaul architecture. So these would be good for those line items on the blueprint that are just going to be the theory of them, and if you don't have exposure to DSL in production environment, then you at least want to know the fundamentals behind that. A lot of these Cisco Live presentations are really good for that. Above and beyond that, there are some specific ones here that would be useful. For example, session 3111, which is multi-point LDP. Session 2008, which is unified MPLS. Okay, so if you haven't seen what these do at all, then what's good about the Cisco Live presentations is they give you just some general background about why they're doing this from a design point of view before they look at the feature. So it's not configuring the feature, but it's more about just what is this, why do we do this, what are the boxes we're going to implement it on, and so forth. Okay, then last but not least, we have the Cisco documentation. We're going to be spending a lot of time throughout the week on the documentation. The reason why this is your only technical resource when you're in the actual lab exam. And beyond this, you cannot use the search function of the documentation in the exam. So if you're in the habit of using Google when you're at home or your office studying, you kind of want to get out of that habit, because if you don't know the manual navigation path for the documents, then you're going to waste a bunch of time in the actual exam clicking around the documentation website trying to find them. So I'm not going to go over this right now because we'll come back to this as we go through the individual technologies. But generally what we're going to be looking at is the config guides and then the command references.